Meanwhile, we've been watching shares of PacWest here this morning enjoying a pop after the bank entered into an agreement to sell a portfolio of 74 real estate construction loans to a unit of real estate investment company Kennedy Wilson Holdings. Shares there are up by about 7% this morning here. And even as we're continuing to watch the difference in strategy and how they need to move forward just to succeed or to stay operating in a company in PacWest and some of the other regionals versus the large banks and the typical portfolio that they would have to their benefits as well here.
Well, I mean, I think that the bigger question, without getting into specific name, this name versus that name, we have thousands of banks in the U.S. Compare that, let's say, to many large companies in Europe, Canada, for example, where you have Canada's got 6 and a few others. So I'd argue if as a former trader, that's a pretty wide market. 3,000. You could drive a truck through that. So I would argue the right number is probably greater than what they have in Canada, because my friends up there complain about their banks all the time. Although they're safe, they don't pay interest, and et cetera, et cetera. Not a lot of competition. I do think we need a healthy regional banking sector. Friends of mine who are small, mid-sized businessmen around the country, they use their regional banks, and they need them. One of my friends who's in a factoring business was telling me he's in Cleveland, and he uses Key, and he uses Huntington, and he uses Fifth Third. He could use Wells Fargo, but he doesn't really like to because they're not as responsive. And so we do need. I picked on 3 banks. They're fairly large regional banks, and we do need a healthy sector there. And if maybe there's too much fragmentation, but I'll argue we don't want all this concentration either, because that's not helpful to thousands of businesses out there that rely on these institutions. Yeah.